All right. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to another expert session number 99. Before I start, just some sponsor recognition here. So, first and foremost, VTEX, the commerce platform powering global retail experiences, and Meet, the platform enabling global, virtual, and hybrid events. I want to also explain what Evolve is. Evolve is a working environment designed for board level leaders and senior advisors. We host ongoing structured conversations focused on real operating conditions across commerce, technology, and organizational strategy. So private membership and corporate partnerships remain selectively open. And the discussion today is about a, is around why the next unicorn may be an AI native agency. Our expert today is Thomas Karwartka, who operates at the intersection of commerce, software engineering, and organizational scaling. As co-founder of Devante, he helped build an European commerce technology firm that later produced ventures including View Storefront and Open Loyalty. He subsequently co-founded Costech while continuing to invest in and advise product-led technology businesses. He work centers on service organizations generate leverage, defense margin, and build enterprise value in markets where execution dynamics continuously compress. My co-hosts are Tim Gaunt, CEO at TSD, Vinny O'Brien, who's a strategist and e-com operator, well known in the US, UK, Ireland, and Vinny, you tell me where else. And Tom, I always start our calls with a controversial opening question. And the opening question for you is, if intelligence becomes infrastructure and execution compresses toward near zero marginal cost, does the traditional agency model remains economically coherent?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. Thanks having me. So short answer is no. And I think it's gonna be great discussion because I think we'll compare our point of views. What I'm seeing from my perspective, working mostly with software agencies. So mostly I work with agencies that actually produce software, not so much with marketing agencies. And last year, it was a lot of this discussion about it. AI coding, is it secure? Do we really use it on production? Maybe just, it's a toy. But from this year, I spoke to 10, 12, maybe, owners of software agencies, and I hear stories, like real stories. We've been waiting for a project that should start in January, and actually it's not starting because the internal team concluded they will write it on their own. And I hear these stories again and again. So I see, especially for the software development, the shift is happening. And I see still so many founders, CEOs of agencies are just shocked because they believe that will happen, but next year, not this year. With the next budget, we'll think about it. And it's happening now. So that's my perspective. But guys, super interested in hearing your perspective. What are you hearing from them?
Nice. And I'll actually, the reason, Tom, why I bring this beautiful gents, it's because they have hands-on experience. I'm more like the observer within Evolve. I try to talk about a lot of stuff, but I think in order to I think it's like e-commerce, right? So you understand about e-commerce when you operate it, a brand when you drive a brand, and so a car if you're a pilot. The gents are here and they're gonna make the conversation even more interesting and deep. So Tim.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I'd echo exactly what sort of Tom's saying, and it's been quite an interesting journey for us. So we're a software agency. We've been around for about 20 years, and over the time, we've always had something sort of chomping at the at your heels. So when we first started out, it was CMSs, and you had WordPress coming onto the platform, removing the technical challenge and barrier for entry. And then we had Shopify with e-commerce, and then the B2B e-commerce space has remained fairly safe and secure-ish. There are people trying it, but due to the sort of specifics, it's a challenging. AI for us is really interesting. I was having a chat with somebody the other day, and they asked the question of how's it affecting the agency, and they were asking sort of both how's it's impacting the sales, but also how we're using it internally. Internally, we're using it a lot, but when we reflected on it, we realized exactly what you're saying there, Tom. So about 12 months ago, we proposed a technical solution to a problem that probably would take a dev team 5-6 days to sort of put a POC together and have a play with. We presented it to the client as a concept, and they went quiet. And we didn't know why until we had a sort of follow-up meeting about 3 months later. And they're like, oh, we've built it. We've got ChatGPT in the back end of BC, and then BC now does this sort of what you're looking to do. It wasn't what we were proposing, but for their needs, their requirements, it was fine. And then about 2-3 weeks ago, we had a very large enterprise, 7-figure deal be put on ice purely because internally they'd actually run up on Replit, and we're involved with part of sort of the work. They're saying this is where the future could be. And it just made me sort of take a step back, that even though we're promoting these sort of the AI agents internally and using them in our dev cycles for reporting and all the managerial sort of recurring work, the engineering team are using it to generate POCs largely, like you say. It was quite surprising to see, hey, look, you're getting, that was a bank, and all the compliance problems that they go on, they were comfortable with effectively downing tools on a tried and tested SaaS product and replacing that with a Replit POC solution. And it's interesting because all these projects, exactly as we would do as agencies, they're sort of brought through as a POC. Then who's ever had a POC remain a POC? They're always production projects, right? The CEO goes, oh, that's brilliant, it's finished, right, let's ship it. Well, I think that's how we're seeing this happen now. So yeah, it's definitely here. I think time wise, I agree. I think this year has been very different. So we've been using Claude Code a lot for the last 6 months, I'd say, but now it's definitely the point where production ready, the PRs can be created, the team can review the code, and they're less precious about, oh, is it exactly what you want? Because they understand actually you can just go through and tweak it. So you're absolutely right.
Vinny, any remarks, sir?
A couple. I speak about this a lot to different people. Hendrik is one of those people as well. And the question that came up, I was chatting with Brian House, he's CEO of Elastic Path last Friday, and what I've come to the conclusion is that SIs and agencies have driven innovation on behalf of retail for about 15 or 20 years. Now, that's a big, broad statement, but if I look outside of, let's say, enterprise, the mid-market innovation and vision has come from SI partners. That value has not been captured anywhere, and right now it's being eroded at a rate of knots. In respect of that, I see agencies saying we're going to be more strategic. I think agencies have, and agency leaders have. I think the challenge for them right now, people like yourselves, is to say, how do we present work we've done for 20 years that has been strategic in this new world, and say, even though everything is moving way quicker, it's actually slower that you have to get and realize the vision that we have. And I kind of see that as a bit of a power struggle that's going to go on internally on the brand and retail side, to say, is the vision coming from partners, or is it going to be developed within? And I think it's going to put huge pressure on e-commerce leaders to step up their innovation game. I think this culture of test and learn will revert to agencies having to pick up a lot of slack in time. And I think the challenge at that point, it becomes an inflection, is how do we take, we'll be your safe pair of hands because you fucked all this up, excuse the language, but you've messed all this up for a number of months. We'll repair this for you, and now you want to come back to us for strategic vision. And I think that's some of the kind of the merry-go-round or the roller coaster that I see in front for agencies. I see a world of opportunity, don't get me wrong, but I think it's going to take a little bit of time to play out, and this kind of pseudo power struggle is going to happen. And I don't mind saying that on record, I don't think the talent is there in the retail and brand side in enough volume for them to succeed alone. So I think they're going to rely on people that's been in the industry. And what gives me a little bit of hope is going back to the days of open source, of Magento and all these other areas where true innovation happened. And I see people getting energized again who have been so exhausted for the last decade that are now saying, actually, this kind of landscape suits us. It's a battlefield we know really, really well, and we know how to win here. And they're the two things that I see emerging now. It's this internal battle, which I think we need to fight, and fight very publicly if I was an agency, versus the thing that you're prepared for because you know how this plays out.
Yeah. And I think just
maybe I will add one more thing, because I think like we have like maybe two topics here. One is like, I believe that, as an agency, we can move towards being more like strategic, right? But I don't think that this actually is what our business model supports. So usually with agencies, like you add like 5% of being strategic, and then you add a lot of hours to generate EBITDA, right? So if you stay on being strategic, actually you downscale from nice EBITDA machine to like consultancy boutique, right? With 3 of your friends. I'm just a little bit afraid that this is great if you're starting, not so great if you have already like 100 or 200 people on your payroll, because all of them, they are not able to be strategic, right? Like you just have like people doing their job, right? They're not suddenly changing into McKinsey consultants. By the way, like we have enough McKinsey consultants, right?
We don't need any more McKinsey consultants. The point you raised, Tim, I'd love to throw this to you and see what you think, because you've kind of touched on it. We've gone from billable projects to billable hours, or billable days to billable hours. Now it's billable minutes. So the idea of having to pay for people, I think that's the first big challenge in front of agencies, like being really blunt about it. How do you get from a world where you were billing tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands for projects, where people are now saying, no way, I'm just going to do that myself? I think that's the first fundamental challenge, and there's no simple way around that.
Yeah. So we had an interesting chat with the team, because I think the strategy point that Tom touches on is interesting. But I think coming back to what you were saying, Vinny, earlier about how the team sort of engages with AI and these projects, you're spot on. The retailers especially don't have the internal skills anymore. Like with Shopify, they might hire somebody to come through and modify something, or the eBay templates or something. But the reality is that the agencies have generally built up a real skill base of crafters. Depending on you might have engineers that just come in and pump things out. And for our team, the challenge, I think, was actually how do we position it to crafters to say, look, it's okay that you're going to become managers effectively of these agentic side of things. And I made a note, I guess, sort of at the same time as you, Vinny, that how do you price it? Well, we changed TSD's billing model quite a few years ago from being time-based, because that just scales linearly and it's terrible. If you need to double your turnover, you've got to double your bums on seats, and then you've got all the overheads and things, so it didn't work. So we've been value-based or ROI-based for a long time now.
Sorry for interrupting you, but this topic is so crucial right now. Can you describe us like how was the transition for you, like how you started? Because I think like we all need to change from billing hours to billing outcome, right?
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest shifts that has to happen across the agencies, and those that have already started going to value-based pricing will be ahead of the game, because the challenge that you kind of come against, whether it's billing minutes or is how is it comparable? Because the AI agents may end up generating the code in minutes or seconds in some cases in the future, but steering them, tuning it, tweaking with it, getting it to actually do what you want in the same way that you would with a normal team member is going to take time. To answer the question of how was it and how do we do it, painful, I think, was was probably the shortest one. It's taken a long time because it's an absolute mindset shift, because you still have to have a concept of how much it's going to go and cost you, because there's two dynamics to it. You've got how long it's going to go and take to develop the projects. You've still got to talk to the team in time. You still have to say, you know, is it a day of work? Is it a week of work? Sort of where on the spectrum does it fit? That will then derive you sort of your range that you could be charging the customer. So it might be 100 to 300,000, let's say. Well, then you've got to then gauge, and this is where you have to sort of deal with your SDRs and the people who are fronting with the clients. So what's the client's budget? Because quite frequently, and this is where it's really changed now. So you might sit there and say, this is a 100 to say 300,000 pound project. You sit in front of the client and the client's going, well, actually, I thought it was a 75 to 120 grand project. Well, you've got an overlap there. Happy days, you end up sort of pricing around 100 grand. As an agency, you're a bit disappointed because you want the top end, obviously. But with agentic coding now and AI coding, and we've hit this multiple times. I mean, we're getting given code now from, you know, ChatGPT output saying, here's a POC that I've developed, and it's like, but it doesn't work except for in your one, you know, happy path. If you do anything that's off happy path, and I've got loads of examples that can show this, then it blows up. That starting point for the customer is totally different. Where you were talking £100,000 before, you're probably talking £10,000 or less. Because if somebody, usually the boss's son who's just been tinkering with something, can do it in an evening, then why the hell is it going to take you this much time to go and, as you say, take it off Replit, take it off Lovable, you know, build it so it's secure? I mean, I think, Vinny, we're looking at it as 12 to 18 months time. There is, you know, if you're in SecOps or you're able to fix sort of POCs, you're going to be, you know, laughing, because there are going to be so many of these projects where you're coming in and patching security vulnerabilities and things.
The challenge, like the kind of layered challenge, I think, on top of all this then is the culture, right? So now we're saying test and learn. We're saying, you know, it's the owner's son who's building something in the evening, never the daughter, actually, way more disciplined and doesn't want to get involved. Always that son that's annoying. But the culture now is good enough culture, right? It's moving us along. It's moving along quicker, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. And then the raft of changes. So I mentioned I'm going to work with a brand now. At this point in time, they don't have a technical lead. I'm not a developer at all, but I know enough about the information filtering through, I think, that I can provide a filter for the brand, like what is good enough for them to start making themselves aware of it or not. So they're a Shopify partner. They would have looked at the announcement around attribution for LLMs in the last few days. They'd have missed that if there's no one in there feeding that into them. So there's all these little missed opportunities, and it feels right now that trade is so static for everybody that we're all looking for that one little thing to win on any given day. And that culturally is the other challenge that I think agencies have. It's that the trade mentality that has been missing for so long. Tim, you would have seen this in marketplaces. Tom, I'm not sure if you've worked in that world. I think that trading mentality becomes the single biggest skill that we can bring in, because it's about knowing the levers that you can pull and who you can bring in and what skills you can bring around you. So I think internally, the culture that sits around how we're going to treat technology and how we're going to treat change, which is an absolute constant, is something that's out of our control. And the narrative is now so dominated by where money is going, and Hendrik can speak a lot to this. And they've said as much. Anthropic taking off safety rails on AI because they're getting pressure from Pete Hegseth. I mean, that's not something we've had to deal with before. So I think we're in a little bit uncharted territory there around the cultural view of what technology has now become, which I think is huge. Sorry,
I think it is new, and I think, you know, your good enough point is you know, very true. And it's historically, it's been the internal team. If the internal team deliver something, then that's usually good enough, and they would get away with it. The expectations on an agency or any form of provider has always been a cut above. If my team can deliver it sort of to 80%, then you should be delivering it to 100%. AI is sort of the scary bit, I think, is the attitude, as you say, to it now is, well, look, it kind of looks like it's working. That's good enough. And it's like, we would have never have got away with shipping it like that before. And I think there's going to be an interesting sort of challenge or bit of friction internally to agencies with the creators who pride themselves in sort of the delivery that is, you know, compliant, PCI compliant, sort of all nicely sort of written, sort of WCAG guidelines, all those sort of things that we adhere to. You can tell the AI to go right like that, but I think the clients that are building themselves with these tools don't know to ask, and that's the key where I think agencies still bring a value, that you can give 2 prompts, and you can have a prompt from a subject matter expert, and you can have a prompt from somebody who's vibe coding or just having a bash at it, and the AI will get better in time for sure. It will fill in those gaps, but I think the agencies in the short to mid-term will be able to sort of challenge it.
Thanks, Tim. I want to add Prakash to the discussion. Prakash, he was busy at a late pitch, which is good. Hopefully it went well, Prakash. Prakash, maybe you have a question. We're discussing new business models for agencies, how they price. I think you joined us a few weeks ago, so perhaps you have and you were at in Dubai recently speaking about that as well. So maybe you have some remarks and a question for Tom. And welcome, Prakash.
Thank you, Carlos. Amazing. Hi, nice to meet you, Tim. Nice to see you, Winnie, and Tom again. Good to see you, folks. Sorry, I'm late, not because of busyness, but I had a client pitch and I had to kind of prioritize that. Sorry about it. But I was just hearing Tim speak when I joined, and let me rephrase it, right? And I was speaking with somebody in a major telecommunication company yesterday night, which actually gets 85% of their revenue through patents. And this person is actually a principal in that company, and he kind of himself has got about 12 patents. And my conversation was more around how is he looking at optimizing the code or the programming in like an embedded chip on a phone using Claude or any GPT. And I think it's quite revealing because while Claude has taken like a big step towards revolutionizing the vertical stack completely, I'm sure all of you are aware of that. They really have leapfrogged from a persona profile perspective compared to GPT. I still believe that, and it was crystal clear to me after speaking with them, I still believe that the enterprise systems which run on legacy code and which run on multi-year technical debts, but it's functioning, will take years and years to just kind of optimize and move on. And that is where agencies and services companies play a big role because the system of record, and this is what I alluded in my expert session, Carlos, if you remember, like, the system of record can never be taken over by the AI tools, because if you take like a company like Merck Sharing Cloud, where I was closely associated in Vital Station in US, in 2008 they were processing over $800 million of orders through SAP and Wipro. I just need to understand how like a Claude can optimize that with that level of like precision, right? Like because every
so
downstream disconnection can actually cause a lot of issues. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think your audio is quite bad, but if I understand your question right, taking a large sort of legacy code base, how can Claude handle the technical debt and how we're approaching it? So interestingly, and I think it was the guys behind COBOL, and certainly Salesforce guys sort of came up and said something similar. the reality is that the order code bases, I think, are going to have a much better chance when you're dealing with the LLM style agentic coding, which is what we're talking about at the moment with Claude Code and GPT. Their data sets are going to be trained on decades and decades of order technologies and order code bases. So that I think they're probably going to be better at understanding the code bases and starting from a more educated position compared to something like .NET 11, which is just being released, .NET Core 11, where it doesn't have any knowledge. And it is an interesting one that for us, we've been using Claude Code, especially to go and identify bugs that we just weren't aware of. And it does sort of pick those sort of things out. I mean, Tom, I don't know sort of whether you've been dealing with any sort of order code bases, but for us, like I say, the order languages like ASP, ASP.NET, presumably PHP sort of 5 forwards are actually stronger, I think, than some of the newer languages.
Yeah. So I would maybe back to the discussion of how to build agency that could, shine today and that could grow today, because I think that's the most interesting thing we could discuss together. So we've been discussing the value-based pricing. I think that's the one thing we agree that's crucial thing, right? And the second thing, I'm just thinking about how the code or how the features will be delivered in future, right? Because then we should be, as you say, team, we should be better than internal teams to be valid, right? Because this is how it always be, right? We've been always better, faster, more creative. That's why they hired us, right? So my thinking is, and maybe just one note for me here. So my thinking is that in the future, a lot of code will be written directly by AI without any human touch. And AI will use a lot of components, open source frameworks, just as coders always did, right? There's no sense of figuring out the new Magento if you can just download Magento and use Magento, right? So AI is smart. So I think like what we can do as an agency, we can build our own frameworks and even like open source frameworks, and then publish this to the market, and keeping a little bit of special sauce, a little bit of AI IP on our side. And this is how I see the marketing is started working for us, at least with our current project. So we build a open source framework for building with AI, CRMs, ERPs, all kind of systems. And we see a lot of people are coming because they want to build with AI, but then they miss some features or they miss some domain experience, some niche features, and you can start upselling your consulting services, your security services, all the things around. So I think like my bet is that Agents of Future is some kind of mix between product company and service company, because probably we need to publish our products to get some, let's say, leads, right? But then we need to be super effective with our work. So we should minimize hours, maximize the output. So I would say we should take our experience and somehow code it into products, right? And we will be selling products, but maybe those products will be always customized for the client. And in the end, the client doesn't care about like how you made it, right? It's just there and it's working, right? And we are faster and cheaper than your internal team because we built it 10 times already, and 80% of the code is our IP we own, right? So we can even like sell this IP to your cloud code and your agents could use it, but actually you should pay something for that. So I'm thinking about this kind of hybrid models, but super happy to discuss, and also I don't know what clients will think about it. We just starting, so it's very fresh.
May I just ask a question then? So your vision is that agencies are gonna start, if they are not doing that already, white labeling products and then and then repackaging that to the client, and then the client can use it as their own.
And the product, it doesn't need to be like finished, because I think we are not we don't want to compete with SaaS. We're just like struggling, right? But we would like to be more effective than internal teams, which means we are bringing something to the table. Like, hey guys, we have this already, and we can like build something on top of that. So you only pay for the 20%, right? And this 20% is like on huge margin on our side. That's my thinking, but I don't know. Like, I'm just starting.
Like,
interesting.
Both yourself and Tim arrived at that same point, that your opportunity is in product design. The speed to market, I think, becomes really quick. You can do uniqueness from a customer perspective. We heard that as well from Jens last week. If you're on the investment side, you're looking for ideas to buy before they actually get built, which is kind of absurd. Hendrik says he sees this loads in his world. And then there's this essay by Certini on Substack this week. I don't know if you guys saw it, but the essay is written in 2028, and it's what has happened to the world since then. And Tim, I think both you and Tom have described the battleground that you're now fighting. I think SaaS's loss becomes your gain as an SI, to be able to work instead of a SaaS company. And I think it's interesting to hear you thinking like that. About a year ago, I spoke with a few people who said if you're not developing products now as an agency, you probably don't have any kind of a realistic future. So I tend to agree with that to a degree. So a part of your battle, as you guys describe it, you've both correctly recognized, at least in my opinion, is you can displace the world of SaaS. And then Prakash, on your side, it's like, well, how do we work closer with SIs as opposed to SaaS, or do we still continue to work in kind of conjunction with them both? And that's something that other platforms are dropping the ball on and doing it quite publicly. So I think it presents opportunities for closer collaboration. My final point in all this is geographically, this is going to play out differently. So the US is going to be the thing we hear loads about, but in Europe and South America and Asia, there's going to be relationship focused selling going on really strongly. So communities like this become really important to us because we can hear each other's ideas. That's how I see it playing out over the next 2 years, rightly or wrongly. But that essay is worth reading. If no one's seen it, I'll share it into the group. It's worth spending some time. Bring a box of tissues and a beer if you need to. You might cry into your soup.
Well, I was just going to add to that, Vinny, because and bring it back to an earlier episode, Carlos, with was it Andre? About, I think it was about 80, 82, something like that, where we're talking about how agencies need to change the product. And I think the amazing thing, that was probably what, 3-4 months ago that we had that discussion, to give you an idea of the pace that this has changed. So we're already exploring sort of at that time, it would have been probably more ChatGPT driven code and product definition and documentation. Now for us as an agency, it's totally transformed the way we're thinking, because the one bit that we couldn't quite, the last bit of the puzzle, so basically what we were talking about was how a lot of the time we get customers coming to us and wanting a product effectively, and then not being able to afford to pay it. So we're like, well, actually, as an agency, what we've been doing is we've been taking those ideas, building it for the customer at our cost, sometimes a sort of like a reduced cost to the customer, and then selling them a subscription to that, and then selling it to other businesses. And it's worked really well, but it's been very slow because we've had to have humans building that. Just in the last 4 months, we've changed the way we're thinking about that. And I think we've got 5 fairly mature, not quite investor-ready products, but certainly usable products that are being used by clients, by internal teams now. And it's the pace that you can go and do that with is quite phenomenal. But I think we're on Substack. I think it was James Van Gielen. I don't know if you saw that one as well, Vinny, where we're actually in a bit of a problem now. And Claude Code themselves, Anthropic, came out and sort of talked about skills. We're getting a very reactive market now, which is really worrying because people are responding to these thinking they're game-changing things. So Anthropic released a skill that went and gave you a insight that previously your broker would have given you, and suddenly all the SaaS products that are related to broker advice or direction, investor direction, just plummeted in value overnight. It was scary. And then James's post, which I think was only Monday, again caused absolute uproar with, because they're talking about the sort of the death in white collar workers, and it's all going to replace it. They're absolutely valid points, and I can see us getting there. But what worries me is how reactive certainly the markets are being. Ultimately, people don't understand the sort of the journey we've got to go on. It's not a tomorrow problem. It is coming, but it's, I agree.
I will maybe add one optimistic note here, because what we have is we have a lot of insights, tons of information about our clients. We see projects, from inside. We see what those big companies are really struggling with. We see that this could be solved better way. We solve this. We gather so much knowledge. I think it's like those, that fish is swimming into water and not aware that the water is all around, right? We are swimming with information about our clients, about real problem challenges. And I invested in 40 startups. And what startups are struggling is to find a problem. We are so good at finding solutions, but find a problem is a real challenge. And we see so many problems. And then I think we're at the pole position to vibe code so many cool products, small products, big products, almost products, framework, like you name it. And to test really fast, also with real clients. Because, if the client is coming to me and I solved it already, I can have the best sales pitch ever. Like I solved it.
But you don't need to. You don't need to have solved it. That's the crazy thing now is we're seeing problems exactly as you say within our customers, and sort of from an investor perspective, that's always a thing that if you can go to an investor and say, here is a problem and there is a need and it's operational, like it's a function. So we took a customer's parsing invoices from emails, a really simple scenario. He gets PDFs coming through and he wanted them in a spreadsheet. Well, you can do it with a no-code solution. Use something like NA10, you give the problem over, and in about 10 minutes, you've got a solution for them. But the value to that business was huge. So you didn't need to charge them for the 10 minutes that it took you to go and do with the knowledge that you've built up over the last 20 years. You were given a problem, you came up with a solution, and then that had an inherent value to the price that you can then go to the customer, which you don't want to sort of be too sort of overinflated with what the prices are, but you're paying for, it's that classic of you're not paying for where to hit on the engine to get the engine started. You're paying for the knowledge of knowing how hard to hit it, exactly which spot to hit it, when to use the hammer, when to go and use it. And I think that's the thing. I think AI's for agencies, if you're sticking your head in the sand and you're not embracing it, then yes, it's a problem for you. But there are, like you said, there's so many opportunities. And I think Vinny was saying earlier, people are getting excited about stuff. I totally sort of echo that. I mean, the last couple of years have been a slog. Now AI is coming on. You can kind of see
the
these
renaissance
releases.
Of creativity, right?
It's brilliant. Yeah.
I feel like, in the 90s, when I first got internet connected, it was like, oh my God, like it's there, like everything is there. Those people are there. And here's like very similar. But just what I want to say is like, this is great for individual contributors. This is great if you're starting. But if it's like really tough, if you are running large agency already, and guys, just imagine this monster agencies like WPP, right? Like you have like tens of thousands of people doing who knows what, right? And get paid, right? And you will struggle. I can't imagine like how tough it is to actually change the course of this ship. But I think like for those which are like in the middle, like running 50 people agency, 100 people agency, the change is tough, because it's also, like Vinny said, it's also cultural. It's also about somehow, I don't know, like pushing your people towards this. Maybe you should change some of your people, right? Maybe it's good to bring those new guys which are excited. Because what I also saw, like yesterday, I had a conversation about our Open Mercato product with the team, and they told us we would like to change our ERP software. We would like to change this for Open Mercato because this is so old, and we hate it. It's not even like love-hate; it's just hate relationship. And we have like almost 20 people working on it just to keep it running. So we told them, okay, it's beautiful. So let's take 2 people, let's separate a small process, and let's build this process using this, our Open Mercato. And they told us, not gonna happen. Those guys, they love this hate relationship so much. They think that's the only thing that will work.
Well, it's their specialty, isn't it? It's the badge that they've worn. They've gone through the wars. They've got the battle scars, and there's the badge of pride.
Absolutely,
totally.
That's the battle they love, right? So actually, if they want to change the ERP software, they need to start from bringing new people to the organization, hiring new people, totally new people, and maybe some of them never implemented ERP in their life. And guess what? It it's not so important, right? Because what's more important, that the new guys are more open and will embrace, AI coding. But that's interesting shift. And it's not so easy being a large company to just, introduce AI, because people will treat it as a toy.
It's interesting.
Go ahead.
Just to build on top of that. By the way, great conversation so far, guys, and good to see you, Prakash. I have a question from the perspective of someone just starting with an agency. My background is in marketing and growth. I've done that for 12 years, but I'm questioning more and more how relevant that is, because all the customers that I'm talking to don't really care about marketing, don't really care about sales. They kind of want the result, right? So I'm wondering if moving forward there's a world in which maybe it's not that much about a development agency or a marketing agency, but maybe more specialized per niche. Maybe it's an agency specialized in, let's say, fintech or commerce, or even more niche, and they do everything end to end, because for the most part the barrier to entry in terms of the technical skills is lower, right? Because of these tools. And yeah, maybe it's not there yet. Like I'm playing with Cloud Code myself, and it's amazing, but at the same time it's super annoying. Like it does some things that that a 12-year-old does, but for the most part it's great, and it's going to be even better. So do you think that's something that might happen in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are. I mean, you're talking about WPP earlier. There are already agencies that I'd say are in that space with physical bodies, and I think where we've got to get a mindset shift, and what we're getting the team to think about is, you're not, AI is a computer at the end of the day. It's sort of ones and zeros, but if you treat it more like a person in the way that you liaise with it, and you become a manager, and then you just have in theory, an unlimited team. And I do wonder where the pricing is going to go when Anthropic and co realize the way they're talking at the moment, the billing model is probably going to change. But I think it's the same with anything. I think there is still value in a subject matter expert, in the same way that I can go to Claude and I can say, go and build me out a marketing plan using Figma. You're connecting with the Figma MCP, and I was watching somebody the other day saying it spins up 10 million different variations of the ads with all the different wording and things. But the reality is that there is still currently, how long I don't know for, but currently there's still a secret sauce that you as a human are bringing to be able to say, my 10 years of experience in marketing on digital marketing says that these ones are going to work the best, because all the blogs over here say these ones are going to work the best, but I know for my client in this scenario, this niche is why. So I think, yes, you will find more agencies opening up and offering a broader set of skills. Ironically, probably going back to where we were in the 2000s, where when we started out, we were sort of, hopefully people remember this, but full service agencies. Over the years, we've niched right down to being, B2B e-commerce or whatever niche you sort of go for. I think we're going to find there's going to be a broadening, opening back up again, where you get more one-stop shops where you can go and have everything. Is it going to be the same quality as if you went to a specialist for back-end code, social media management, etc.? I don't know. Probably not. That'd be my thoughts on it, anyways.
Yeah. Hendrik is trying to find the unmute button. Be careful.
Go ahead.
Go on, Hendrik. Let us have it. And Krista.
So, this conversation went into various places that I did not see coming. So, I have first I have a statement, and then I have a question.
Is this an official statement? Is it on headed paper? Let us see it. I want to see evidence.
So, statement for me is that everything that I'm hearing from this conversation today is that AI is an extinction event for agencies, and that the platforms essentially want to work directly with customers, and agencies are screwed. Okay, so that's the controversial statement, as per Carlos's normal situation. The question for me is, and I think what I'm beginning to think more of based on today's conversation is, I think the world in which we are moving towards is that humans that are either inside organizations or inside agencies, if they still exist, I just think you need to essentially ensure that this stuff gets done. When Tim and Tom and Vinny mentions that, the world is going to be running on Claude code and ChatGPT code and whatever else, guys, as an analyst, that scares the shit out of me, because that is going to just cause chaos. I don't see certain parts of the world just saying this is fine. Hello, finance. Hello, stuff that is, I don't want my airport and my plane to be running on ChatGPT code. Thank you. No, thank you. So my point is, are we essentially not talking about the future of work changing rather than agencies per se? Thank you for listening, and I look forward to your comments.
So just on your point, Hendrik, as far as certain sort of gated sectors, especially, so you mentioned finance, and we have experienced firsthand losing an enterprise grade sale to AI within banking, and it was within investment. So it's the highest compliance governance that you could get through. I mean, it's normally sort of 6 to 12 months discussions with the legal and compliance just to get our AI driven software solutions in, and we lost to effectively he's not even a coder, he's a product owner that was hired from the UK to go and show how POCs could be built with Replit. And so this is happening. So I think coming back to Vinny's point earlier of sort of what's acceptable and the good enough sort of mindset, it is already in there. I agree with sort of the airports and stuff, it is a bit daunting, but equally I've seen what humans code. I've seen what sort of the junior developers sort of put out, and honestly, I probably rather a machine that's been trained on experts in that sense. But I think we're a way off really from having a human in the middle, being totally removed. It's totally possible. Claude code, they do it. I think 6 months now they've been just generating everything with AI. But the cadence they do it and fix bugs and things, it's phenomenal. But yeah.
I would just maybe add that for sure we will need humans to talk to humans, and I'm betting strongly that with large companies, especially the executives, those guys are busy. They just want to have someone to talk to. Like, hey guys, I need this and that and that. And someone need to be there to just listen and, let's say, collect, what's needed. So that's one thing. And then I think the code, like the quality of the code, like who cares about it? Like if you're buying a car, are you really thinking about the quality of every single piece? I don't know. I have no idea what's inside. I just believe that, there is this like homologation, like it's ready to drive, you can drive it. And then there are some liabilities, right? If it kill me, then okay, that's their problem. And I am using SaaS, I'm using planes, cars, without any thinking what's inside. So why the hell the code is different here? Like it's just like a CRM, it's just a CRM. Like no one will die if this will, burst. So I think like companies will buy it a lot. It's so beautiful from the perspective of executives. Managing people, it's a nightmare. Guys, remember about it. It's a nightmare. Less people, less chaos, less troubles. It's beautiful.
Thanks. Christoph.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for the possibility to join the conversation, because not sure if you are if you know, but it's really hard to get to the conversation with Tomek. Tomek is quite a popular guy now in Poland, so I have the chance to ask the question. So basically, a great discussion. I'm an operator in Shopify Plus agency, so I have my own agency, and I can now see those changes and how my team using Cloud Code, Cursor, all of those stuff. And basically, what I think about it, my key points, like the what you said, I can totally agree with it. What Tomek said about product plus service agency, we also experiment with that. So we are producing Shopify app plus we are in Shopify agency. So we're looking for to make something which is more valuable than just the agency itself. We are also in the niche because we are trying to be in the niche business to operate with the niche customers. So we already also tackled this scheme. But my question was about what could be the advantage of the agency of the future. I mean, like the one that was not mentioned during this conversation. If you have one, especially Tim and Tom, if you have the advantage the agency can use, I mean, separately from the AI, separately from this product service plus the niche, is there anything else you would say that you can bet on it and maybe in the future it will appear as a huge advantage?
So I could start because there was one thing I really like, and I'm not talking about it enough. It's relationship. It's
That's good.
So beautiful because especially for enterprise clients, trust is the ultimate value. I think bigger than the outcome. In the end, it's all about trust. There is like a huge CEO of the company, and the guy just the first priority, I want to stay here. Right? So I think the trust. Let's add let's have like, services plus products, own IP, niche, great outcome, value-based pricing, and then trust. And
Awesome.
it looks beautiful to me.
That's good.
Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I think relationships are key, and I think the agencies that have got out there and the starters have always been built on good relationships and helping people out of problems. I think the human element and the conversation is going to be an interesting one, because one of the things that I like as a busy person is I can just go and be very blunt, that I can't be as blunt with the team. I can just say, can you go and do this now, please? Or, I need to go and change that. And I think what we're going to find is, especially within the developer engineering community, that they're going to be able to engage more with managing an agentic team than a human team, because we we have found within our small teams that there are certain people you can promote to managers, and then there are others that are great coders, would make a great sort of mentor, but there's no way we could sort of promote them into that role because they just lack all the human sort of people skills and the politeness, and they don't understand. So I think that's going to be really interesting. And I know we're sort of getting close to the end of the session, so I sort of toss it in now. But I think one of the challenges we've got to be really mindful of is burnout. And talking from personal experience, and Vinny was saying earlier that people are getting excited. I for those that know me, I tend to wake up early, but I've been finding myself waking up even earlier than normal, massively excited to be able to go and just drop in the latest set of prompts that I've sort of thought about, or instructions to the AI to go and build the next thing. And I think we have to keep an eye on the community as a whole, and people who are really getting into sort of agentic coding, especially, to make sure that they're not, the speed doesn't overwhelm them, because I think we're going to get a lot of burnout to the point where I feel I'm now the bottleneck in the team, because as building a human team, you become this sort of point where you need to bring managers in to manage the managers and all the rest of it, and you scale up and out. Agencies are going to hit that much faster, and I think there's a lot of learnings to be had, but I think we can take a lot of learnings from how agencies and big organizations are built up over time. But yeah, relationships are key. So keep in touch with people, both sides, your engineers and your clients.
Carlos, that's one thing for sure. AI will not replace you.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I actually, that was perhaps a remark from last session. We brought this guy who used to run the partnerships and ventures teams at SoftBank, so major investor, and he was talking about the idea that his idea of the moat, being not being a difference anymore. But he also touched on the point of communities. So what we have here being a differential and really becoming the infrastructure of trust and distribution, right? So how you're gonna distribute your message, your trust, maybe. So actually, I like to hear your take, Tom, because you've been also part of multiple communities. During the pandemic, you started that project for Europe, to help Europe.
Tech to the rescue.
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Tech to the rescue. So the role of communities moving forward, yeah, and what we are doing also here at Evolve, I think we're building for senior professionals. As I say, the world isn't getting any younger; the world is getting older. So I believe there's going to be a lot of opportunity for senior operators in that sense, and that's what we're building. We're building like something quite special, I believe. But again, it takes time. But I like your take on this, Tim, as well, and everyone else who's here.
Thanks.
Yeah. So perhaps if you have a take, Tom, sorry if I wasn't clear on communities and the value of communities moving.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the thing.
Nothing to add.
Perfect. Do we have more questions? We've reached, I think, 58 minutes now.
I will need to drop off, guys.
Yeah. So Hendrik, I'll have to call you just to do the final remarks. You're our guy, so if you could, please.
So firstly, thank you everybody for coming to today's expert talk. Tom from Poland, you definitely shook some cages and you provided some really good insights, so thank you for sharing that. Tim's doing the standing thing ensured that he also showcased what the future is, and I think that for me the takeaway from Tim was the future isn't 18 months away. This is 6 to 12 months away, just based on the speed. Prakash essentially did what he always does, and that is essentially make us all think about the practical implications of things. Carlos, you mediated. I think I can make the argument this is most probably the least you've ever spoken in a expert show, but I just wanted to call that out. But the point for me is that in a conversation like today, it just showcases to me why Evolve is very unique. We have people from all over the world sharing the implications of new technology on sectors that is complementary to all of our businesses. And I learned things today, and I wouldn't say it changed my view. It for me, it essentially emboldened some of the views, because a lot of the things I found myself nodding my head towards, most probably not seen on the video. So yes, folks, have a great rest of the week. And Carlos, I made a note. Either you or Gustavo, can you please make sure that the articles? So I know the Citrini research piece was mentioned, but Tim mentioned another person who spoke about the immediacy of technology, AI and stuff. If you can please ensure that you add that to the newsletter.
Sure thing, sure thing.
Other than that, yes, this was great. And as usual, I cannot wait for who's next week, because they have no idea what they're walking in towards.
Thank you. Hey, everyone, thank you so much. Hendrik, thanks so much for the final remarks. Tom, just if people want to know more about you, like you're in a community, but outside of the community, this is being broadcast on LinkedIn. So if they want to know more about you, Open Mercato, what's the best way?
Yeah, just write down Open Mercato, follow us on GitHub. That's the project I am fully in. And that's, I believe that's the future of agentic coding for enterprise clients. So yeah, thank you for having me. Great session. I've learned a lot. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, all. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, folks. See you then. Bye.
Thanks, Prakash. Thank you.